Good morning, everyone. Most people tend to like to be distracted rather than actually wanting to get away from it because it shows in their actions when they repeatedly go for the distraction, usually for dopamine, over and over again until their minds become too distracted to actually focus. Which is why there's a lot of mental health training now going on because they're actually starting to see the effects of social media and whatnot. The point I want to make here today is that you're able to use your distractions as a source of energy for focusing rather than actually just getting distracted within itself. That might sound confusing, but it'll be very simplified and the process will make a lot of sense as you watch the video. So, the first step to turning your distractions into a mental powerhouse for your consciousness to absorb and use in a focused effort is to have a goal in mind before getting distracted. Now, that might sound kind of weird because you wouldn't really want to go and get distracted if you're trying to focus on something. But hear me out. A lot of people suffer from burnout or lack of energy, or they don't have that drive that they want to get something done. So as they move through life and they try to tackle one thing after another, they just fail and fail and fail and fail, and they go down a negative spiral. That's where the distractions often come in and provide them with the dopamine to make you perceive that you are being better than you actually are. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to have a goal in mind before we get distracted, so that way we have something to anchor back to. This is a very common practice actually in meditation, where they'll use the breath as an anchor so that way if your mind gets distracted, you can focus back. Now, we're going to flip it from just purely meditation, and we're actually going to use this in a focused effort doing some form of work. So, let's say you're a writer, and let's say you're writing something down, and you know the goal in mind is to complete 3 pages by the end of the afternoon, right? Maybe you have an hour or 2 hours left. You sit down, you get your pen, pencil, paper, start writing, and then boom, your mind's distracted. Now, what do? Well, if your mind gets distracted, which it will in this case, you want to get yourself to come back to your activity. So you go in, start working, you get distracted. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try to pull yourself back. Now it might be difficult to do at first, but once you've trained the skill, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video, or no, I haven't. Once you train your skill, you'll be able to get a deeper and more what's the word I'm looking for? A more successful, pullback rate, we'll call it. So that way you can take the energy from that distraction and then beam it towards, in this case, the paper. We want to build that focus so that way you're actually going to bring out a real world result instead of leaving yourself distracted and not useful for anyone, even yourself. As we continue to write and write, we'll get more distracted, boom, boom, boom. But we'll be able to take that energy. Should I explain it? I'll do it for the sake of this video, right? I'll quickly explain to you what the energy is. The energy is simply the dopamine that I was talking about. Now, dopamine is also paired with another hormone called norepinephrine, which allows you to focus. The thing is that if you gain dopamine from something that's so short term, like a social media post, your mind will focus on that short-term thing and that short-term thing, and it's called task switching. They'll keep going boom, 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 boom. Which is why what we want to do was we want to actually take the energy and then focus it on one last thing. Because that last thing of focus, which we preferably do quickly, so that way we don't lose all of our energy trying to get dopamine, we can then use the excess that we just received to focus our minds onto the objective that we have and finish that objective within the set period of time that we have allotted ourselves. Now, there is one way to actually boost this process or to speed it up, and that would be to have a hard deadline. Provide yourself some stress. And in the next video I make, I'm going to explain to you why stress is so valuable and why people shouldn't run away from it. But anyways, we want you to take the dopamine paired with stress, so that way when you sit down and you go to write or speak or take whatever action is involved within your life that is major, like your work, you'll be able to get many tasks done beyond what average people could. And this is all simply because we are taking the idea of distracting ourselves and turning it into the motivation for our focus to drive in on the objective that we have in our minds. The only problem is that most people, like I've previously mentioned, they always get distracted and never get anything done. So, if you really want to train this skill, a first step for you would be meditation. Because meditation involves the idea of you getting distracted and coming back. For most people, they will have to start at this step purely because they're not ready to put their minds through distraction, refocused, and then sit down and do that task. Now, I'll give you a story on how this worked for me. So, there were many days where, since I write scripts for my videos, there were many days where I sat there and I felt lazy and I felt distracted and I felt incapable of doing the things that I wanted to do. So, what I chose to do to solve this issue was I would have an objective in mind to do something, start doing it, get distracted, but then come back. Since I knew that I had to get it done by a certain time, I had to sit there and grind it out and repeatedly do the action over and over and over again until I actually got it finished. Because the deadline plus that dopamine allowed me to funnel the energy into what I did for a script. That's going to be it for me. Thank you for watching, and I want you to subscribe and share the video. It really helps me so I can grow my channel more, and it'd be very appreciated. Thank you, and as always, we're here to help you help them.